Good afternoon and welcome to True Crime Mysteries. If you're new to the channel, hello and welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. Today we're jumping back into part 2 of the murder of Dan Brophy. If you haven't seen the first video, the link is in the description, but with that being said, let's get into it. After the first interview with detectives, Nancy gets a police escort back to her home. This also gives detectives an opportunity to retrieve the gun that Nancy said was in her closet. The initial thought was that Dan may have had it in his possession when he was murdered, and perhaps it had been stolen or used against him. But it was in the closet, just as Nancy had said. They took photos of it and snapped a few pictures of her vehicle, a gray minivan. Once a death notification is completed by detectives, they began investigating the area surrounding the Culinary Institute, and one of the first things they did was pull all the security footage from the surrounding areas, retracing Dan's steps from when he arrived until when his body was found.
Detective Broughton and Detective Beniga were at the Brophy home. Detective Merrill and Detective Posey were searching the area around the Oregon Culinary Institute for surveillance video. They went across the street to Bellagio's Pizza, roughly located around this area, kind of across from the Oregon Culinary Institute. And it had a camera angle that pointed north. As they watched that video, they recognized a minivan that they thought was visually consistent with Nancy Brophy's minivan, because they had just seen her with it downtown minutes prior. As they continued watching this video, they realized that this van actually passes, heading this direction, heading westbound, 2 separate times that morning. First at 7:08, and the second, 7:28. Now, detectives knew that the next instructor had arrived at about 7:35 at the Culinary Institute. And detectives knew that Dan had disabled the alarm at 7:22 and 30 seconds. So now they had a window of opportunity for someone to kill Dan. They had about a 13-minute window, and as they're watching this video, they realize that it appears that Nancy Brophy is leaving the area of the Culinary Institute and heading out of town at 7:28, right in the middle of their window. After seeing that, Detective Merrill contacted Detective Beniga, who was still out at Miss Brophy's home. Detective Merrill requested that Detective Beniga take a photograph of the minivan and text it to him. Detective Beniga took several shots of the minivan on different angles. And when Miss Brophy saw that Detective Beniga was doing that, she immediately questioned him as to why he would need photographs of her van, because she wasn't at the Culinary Institute that morning. So what's the need? Detective Beniga nonetheless took the photographs and sent them on to Detective Merrill. Detective Merrill then compared that still shot on the left that Detective Beniga had taken. You can see him kind of in the reflection. What Detective Merrill noticed immediately was there's this large gouge in the picture that Detective Beniga sent. Compared to the photograph or the still shot that he's looking at in Bellagio's video, Detective Merrill believes there's a visually consistent mark in that minivan. Now Detective Merrill believed that this was in fact the minivan that Nancy Brophy was driving around that morning, and is the same minivan that he's seeing in the video. However, that was a direct contradiction to what Nancy Brophy just told them less than an hour prior during the death notification, when she was at home, and as you heard, further elaborated on the conversations and interactions that she had with Dan Brophy that morning.
As they began collecting more footage from traffic cams and from security footage from businesses, they began to piece together more sightings of Dan's truck, but also a gray minivan, one that looked suspiciously like Nancy's. But that didn't go against what she'd told law enforcement that morning. She said that she'd been at home during the time that Dan had been killed. Cell phone records also confirmed, making detectives suspicious that Nancy was lying. Detectives noted that there was something odd about the gun that Nancy had surrendered to them. They noticed that the gun's slide was out of battery, meaning that the slide was not locked into position, therefore not safe nor stored correctly. Nancy claimed that the weapon had never been fired, nor had she handled it since she purchased it from the gun show. Detectives went back to the retailer of the gun, who assured them that they never would have let a gun leave their stall out of battery, leading detectives to believe that the gun had been taken apart and put back together by someone with limited knowledge about firearms. Officers compared the gun to the shell casings found at the crime scene and noted that they didn't match. But still, detectives were missing a key element: motive. Why did a woman nearing retirement kill her husband after decades of marriage? Dan and Nancy had met in the 90s. Nancy was making a career change and attended a culinary arts program just to kill some time. It was there that she met Dan Brophy, a new divorcee. They were friends for many years before they began dating, and it seemed from the outside to be an idyllic marriage. The couple regularly took vacations abroad, they had similar interests and passions, and they routinely entertained guests where Dan would create impressive spreads. Dan was often described as reserved, quiet, and content with his own company. He foraged and had many gardening experiments on the property he shared with Nancy. He raised chickens and was devoted to their care. He had a dry sense of humor and a get-it-done attitude towards work, his garden, and life. He was always up to something. No one ever knew him to slow down. Retirement had never seemed an option for Dan. Dan had a son from his first marriage, who was a teenager when the divorce occurred. When Dan remarried, they began to cultivate a strong bond. His son also got to know Nancy, and for a brief time even worked for her when she owned a catering company. When his son had kids of his own, Nancy and Dan would watch them, and were doting grandparents. After all the time he had spent with his father and with Nancy, his son could only count a handful of times when he saw the couple argue. But he said he wouldn't even call it a fight, he just described it as tension. That was a common perception from those who knew Dan and Nancy well. Everyone said they never argued or fought. Maybe they had a disagreement, but they would always apologize and hug it out. They seemed to have a very healthy, loving relationship and excellent conflict resolution skills. What people didn't know was that the couple seemed to be really struggling financially, and it started about 2014. Nancy had sold her catering company at a loss, and it was then that she wanted to focus on writing. She wrote suspense romance novels and penned 14 in total, all of which she self-published. None of them came to much success, and certainly weren't paying back the thousands of dollars that Nancy spent to invest in herself. Writers' retreats, classes, conventions, marketing, among the many other expenses it takes to put out novels. In the marriage, Nancy was definitely the bigger spender of the two. While Dan occasionally purchased larger ticket items, he didn't bleed money the way Nancy did. If Dan didn't cook, Nancy would eat out. Nancy boasted that in her 25-year marriage, she never cooked a single meal. We see from her bank statements that Nancy went to Starbucks daily, often multiple times daily. Nancy hired housekeepers to come in and clean her areas of the house. Her bank statement showed just a constant outpouring of cash that oftentimes wasn't there. Her bank statements showed that she had no concern with spending. Even when they were absolutely strapped for cash, Nancy always spent what she wanted, even if that meant a mortgage payment went unpaid. Significantly more money was going out than coming in, as we see. Dan's teaching salary wasn't enough to cover their mortgage, let alone all the other house expenditures. When Nancy sold the business, they were left with tens of thousands of dollars in debt. They refinanced their home several times, and financial audits of their bank accounts showed that despite their financial troubles, they never changed their spending habits, still taking vacations, maxing out credit cards, refinancing their mortgage to catch up, and then doing it all over again. And when they couldn't pull from their mortgage, they began to dip into Dan's retirement money. Nancy eventually did go back to work as an insurance broker. First, she sold life insurance, but then later switched to Medicaid, where she worked off of commissions. The only problem with this line of work is that commissions were only paid out sporadically, oftentimes annually, which left the Brophies with a cash flow issue. It was also around this time when Nancy started taking out numerous policies for herself and Dan to get commissions. And these policies had monthly payments, and at one point the Brophies were paying nearly $2,000 per month in various life and medical insurance policies. According to Nancy, the couple decided that they were going to subdivide the property and sell it, downsize to something smaller and less expensive. They spent almost a year preparing the property for sale, but it hadn't been a welcome change for Dan according to those who knew him. He was also working a second job in the evenings at a retirement home in order to bring in a second income into the household. In the months before Dan's murder, people noticed that he seemed depressed, tired, and lacked his get-up-and-go attitude. He never talked about what was bothering him, but it isn't far-reached to just say he was working all the time, not only at Avamere, the retirement home, or at the school as a teacher. He also did other stuff on the side, and he was just probably burnt out from just working day in and day out. And then when he came home and had time off, Nancy wanted him to pack and get rid of the house that he loved and the garden he cherished. And he just had so much going on, and it wouldn't be a stretch of the imagination to say that he might have been a little depressed about all of this change and upheaval, which many noted he was not good with, and it was just seemed to be a difficult time for Dan. It wasn't just a move for Dan, this would be a whole lifestyle change, and one he wasn't keen to make. Nancy, on the other hand, was ecstatic. She hated the chickens and the mess that surrounded Dan. She described him as a collector of things and often made comments about how cluttered her home was with Dan's projects. Dan didn't like throwing things away and often brought things home from school to repair or repurpose. Dan had a hard time parting with these things, making the process of getting the home ready for sale slow. After Dan's death, though, Nancy made quick work of gutting the home and putting the house on the market. Nancy stated at trial that she and Dan would have been ready to put the house on the market in the fall, but after his death, Nancy, with the help of 35 friends and family members, sorted, packed, cleaned, repaired, and it had taken weeks for them to get this house ready for market. Nancy admitted that she and Dan were making slow headway on the house, saying that before he had died, what they'd finished was clearing out a bathroom. It was also discovered through those financial audits that in total, Dan had numerous life insurance policies taken out on his behalf, totaling around $1.5 million. Policies that Nancy almost immediately started to attempt to cash in. A part of that $1.5 million cash out was going to be from the workers' comp benefit because Dan had died at work. Had Dan not died at work, Nancy wouldn't be receiving a majority of this windfall. Nancy's financial troubles were about to be completely solved. 4 days after Dan's murder, the lead detective got a call from Nancy with a request he had never heard before.
But I think I need to be the stupid question of the day.
Okay.
My insurance company said, well, just have the detective write a letter that you're no longer a suspect. And I said, man, I just don't know that he's there. And I'm not sure that he looks it that way. But if you do, I get you to write the letter. My sister, when I told her this as a lawyer, laughed so hard she fell out of the chair. So
Why
because
why would you need that?
because they don't want to pay if it turns out that I secretly went down to the school and shot my husband because I thought hey, going into old age without Dan after 25 years, it's really what I'm looking for, you know.
Okay. Well, we never would do something like that.
I really didn't think so.
Yeah, I mean that's not something that we never do something like that. That's never been done. I've never heard of that being done.
I was shocked when he told me this. And the other thing he says, well, I said, so what happens if, in fact, based upon your, and this is such a stupid little policy. I can't believe they're making me jump through the hoops like this. This is only $40,000. And as my sister said, you know, usually when they do that, it's for millions. And I said, yeah, we weren't insured for millions. But the other thing is, I said, what happens if, in fact, this case never gets resolved? And they said, well, that has to go to up to the supervisors to be evaluated. And I'm thinking, great. So let me ask you my next question, which I know you're going to give me a vague answer, so I don't know why I'm asking. But have you got enough things that you really think you know, or you think you've got the potential to solve it at this point? When I saw you on Saturday, I didn't think you had that.
We are looking at a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I told you before, is that there's a lot of things to go through and review, because given the nature of what took place and how it took place, you know, there's just a lot of people to talk to, and a lot of you know, it's just a lot of information to process. Because you know, when we have something like this take place, we cast a wide net for information, right? And so it takes time processing some of that stuff. So that's kind of what's going on with that. And that's why and I apologize, you know, I meant to get back to you sooner, but there's just a large amount of things still coming in, you know, that I haven't even had a chance to look at yet. Just because there's just been, you know, it's just a lot of things, right? So we're working on that. Both my partner and I are you know, we've been working nonstop, just going through all of the different things. So
trying to hound you, real frankly, I want you to take as long as it takes, because I want us to find this person. But but I'm not hounding you. But you know, I've also got my family saying, well, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? And then somebody pops up and says, oh, this and that. And I'm thinking, well, we don't know this and that, but that doesn't matter. You know, everybody has an opinion. And but when this woman asked for this today, I thought, I cannot even imagine in my wildest dreams you doing that. But I thought, it's worth a shot. I'll ask, you know.
Okay. Actually, I did have a couple of questions for you about a couple of things. The first thing was family members, Daniel's family members that live here in the area.
And that would be Jack and Karen, his parents.
So Jack and who?
Karen, his wife, Karen.
Oh, Karen. Okay.
And they live in Garden Home. They live at 7245 Southwest. And it could be Portland or Tigard, depending on, but it gets delivered to both. And 9722. And do you want their phone number?
Sure. And their last name's Brophy then?
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on just a second. I'll give you their phone number.
Okay, thank you.
Speed dial is not my friend.
Does he have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, but they don't live here. But so if you want to talk to any of them or anything like that, they're all coming in tomorrow, and they'll be here till Sunday. And the memorial service is going to be at the school from 4 to 6.
On Sunday?
On Friday.
Friday. Okay.
Yeah. So according to every TV show I've ever watched, the detectives sneak in and watch for somebody looking guilty. I'm just helping you out with tips.
Okay.
So
4 to 6 on Friday is the memorial. Okay.
And then Nathaniel is his son, and he lives here. And Nathaniel's last name is Stillwater, and his wife is Kate.
Right.
And
I think I have their info.
Okay, good.
And now you guys didn't end up having kids together, is that correct?
We did not.
Okay.
You know, we didn't get married till I was 41.
Okay. And do you have any kids from previous
I
relationship?
did not.
Oh, okay. Okay. And
So,
then
basically, Nathaniel is our sole heir regardless of which parent survived. You know,
I gotcha.
I mean, I think of Nathaniel as my son as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, so we were reviewing some of the items in Daniel's wallet,
Okay.
and we found some what looks like medical ID cards.
For Kaiser?
No, for some other people.
ID cards for other people.
Yeah. So do
Weird.
you? And I'm just going to put out a couple of names
Sure.
to see if like they're people that you know, or he you know that he would know. A Hugh, I think it's Ngo. It's an Asian name, NGO.
No.
How about a Darla Shaw?
No.
Okay.
Oh man, please don't tell me he had a secret life.
I don't think so, but there could be a perfectly good explanation for why they're there. But I just
Well, you know, we were talking about that at dinner the other night, and I said, you know, of course, I'm a TV watcher, as you could tell. I said, you know, what if he turns out to have had a secret life? And they said, you knew where he was all the time, and that is absolutely the truth. You know, he snored at night, and people would complain about their husband snoring. And I said, hey, I know where he is every night. You know,
right.
I didn't feel that way about it.
Okay. I didn't know if that was some, there was some kind of thing. I didn't know if it was something where, he was, helping somebody out or some kind of thing, with picking up medication for somebody or something for some reason or.
No.
Okay.
I don't, the fact I don't know those names is really strange.
Okay.
I mean, I really felt we had a close relationship.
And like I said, it was in his wallet, so.
Sure.
I just was just curious about that. So, okay.
And the other thing I thought about, because you'd asked me what was in his wallet, was there was probably another card in addition that was the Nordstrom's card. But I think I hit all the cards with the Nordstrom's card.
Okay.
You know, and medical, he might have had something from Willamette Dental, and he might have had something from Kaiser, but he shouldn't have had anything else.
Oh, and I think is there any particular reason why he would take pictures of people's like ID cards for medical stuff, or would there be something that he would do for?
Are you looking on his phone?
We did. I mean,
Okay.
We did do that. Yeah.
Okay, that's me. Okay, once you said that, I got it. Yes, I sell Medicare.
Oh.
Those are Medicare cards. So sometimes when I go out and see somebody and it's on a weird time,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, you know, I'm dual eligible, which means they're eligible for both Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
I have to call and find out all the information. So I take pictures of their cards. So when they say, and what was their date, and what was this, that's why those pictures are on there.
Oh.
From me. So, and
They're from you.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
For you, 98% of those pictures were taken by me.
Oh, okay. Do you use his phone, or is it?
No, our phones are interlocked because they're on the same
same account. Okay.
So I have his numbers. He has my numbers.
Gotcha.
So you may really want to check with me as you go along on that, because I can tell you. But yeah, that is why those are on there.
Okay.
So it's because of the fact that it's so much easier for me to just take a picture, so I'm not taking their card with me.
Okay.
And most of the people I talk to are totally lost with Medicare.
Yeah. No, it's complicated. My dad is on that, so yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I needed to know then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then I'm glad we straightened out.
Yeah, cleared that all up. Cool.
Yeah, that would have been a really weird. Why would you have all this information?
Yeah, and it was my mistake. It wasn't in his wallet. For some reason, my partner said it's on his phone. It was on his phone.
Shaw could have been a client of mine. And both of those names could have been clients of mine. I just wasn't thinking of them in terms of connected with him.
Okay.
And I see hundreds of people.
Sure,
and
sure.
So, I don't even remember who. And people call me all the time and say, I'm the one with the dog, and like that narrows it down. And so I'm better with faces than I am with names.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your information, and really take your time. Do not let me get neurotic on you. Just slap me around and I'll go away.
No, it's fine. We're just, like I said, we're just, we got to work through things. So it does take time sometimes. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The call stood out to detectives as unique. In the following months of the investigation, the key piece of evidence so far was the surveillance footage placing Nancy in the area of the murder, and her lying to detectives about where she'd been that morning. She wasn't at home. There were several different cameras that placed her around the Culinary Institute in the window of time that Dan had been murdered. She also had a gun, and although the weapon in police custody was determined not to have been the murder weapon, it did show that Nancy could possibly be more familiar with guns than she let on, and if she was willing to lie about one thing, what's to say she wasn't lying about everything? Another note to point out was that the Oregon Culinary Institute was a maze. Anyone familiar with older colleges or universities can agree that generally they are difficult to navigate. OCI was no different. There were multiple kitchens, adjoining classrooms, storage rooms, a full restaurant, reception areas, student areas, and a teacher area. It is not simple to just walk in and immediately find what you're looking for unless you know the place. Dan was alone at the school for only 12 minutes. From the moment he disabled the alarms and when his coworker arrived at the school was only 12 minutes. That is such a small time frame to suggest that someone just wandered in and happened to find him there. The door was locked behind him, students couldn't get in, and his coworker was the one that unlocked the front door when she arrived at the campus. Dan also wasn't startled. He'd been bent over a kitchen sink when he was first shot. To suggest a stranger or someone Dan didn't know had come into the school and that person happened to find the only person in the school on a day when Dan didn't normally arrive that early. No one was expected to be there at that time. The school wasn't robbed. Dan wasn't robbed. He had cash on him. And the person who killed him left the building completely undetected and not picked up on surveillance. It's just too big a coincidence. Nancy, however, was seen on surveillance leaving the downtown area at 7:28 a.m., only minutes before Dan's body was found. It was the only vehicle to have been seen arriving, stopping, being in the area at the window of time, and then leaving OCI at the exact moments that detectives were looking for. They even went ahead and pulled every Toyota Sienna minivan with an Oregon plate in the area. There had been 9 total, and only one matched the vehicle seen on surveillance, and there was no doubt who was driving: Nancy. On September 5th, 2018, Nancy Cranston Brophy was arrested on one charge of second-degree murder. She was held without bond while she awaited trial, which began on April 5th, 2022. Well, that's going to be it for this section. In the next video, we will discuss the trial, the new evidence gathered and presented by the prosecution, as well as the result of that trial. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you like the content and what I do over here, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next upload. If you could also give a like if you enjoyed the content, that would be much appreciated as it helps the channel to grow. And if you want to support me or the channel, we have membership as well as Patreon, and links to all my socials are in the description box. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.